Taking my first steps out of the blind, I observed a freshly trodden path through the leaves, wide enough to rule out a small animal or deer. My mind raced, considering the presence of a bear or wolf, and I quickened my pace towards my uncle. With each step, the darkness deepened, and about a mile away, an eerie noise, akin to a bear man in distress, pierced the silence. Fear gripped me, and I broke into a run, struggling with the weight of boots and thick hunting gear on my back. Around 25 seconds later, the unnerving sound echoed again, louder and closer. In complete darkness, guided only by the moonlight, I turned with my headlamp to witness a horrifying sight. Approximately 50 yards away, a tall, slender figure stood, its silhouette illuminated by the moon. It stood about 10 feet tall. Without second thoughts, I sprinted, fumbling to retrieve my gun. Running without direction, I found myself on a familiar road, recognized as Badger Trail, connecting my camp to the hunting area entrance. As I ran until reaching my camp, I turned around, spotting the figure again, now further away, still standing tall, black, and slender. It had long arms and legs. Exhausted, I vomited on the cabin steps, eventually passing out. I awoke to the sound of my uncle's quad entering the driveway. Tearfully, I recounted the harrowing experience, initially met with skepticism. However, as the night unfolded, the desperation in my eyes convinced my uncle of the authenticity of my tale. In the aftermath, haunted by the ordeal, I adopted the practice of hunting only in pairs and armed with a more substantial firearm for added reassurance. Reflecting on this chilling encounter, it remains the most terrifying experience of my life. In the past, I used to accompany my uncle on these trips, but his recent health struggles have limited his ability to join me. Consequently, I find myself venturing into the wilderness alone more often. In the last hunting season, which unfolded in 2022 at the time of this narrative, I secured an Airbnb near a national park in Vermont. Arriving late on a Friday after completing a workday, I navigated the secluded, private dirt road leading to the cabin under the cover of darkness. The tranquility of the night was accentuated by the absence of bugs and crickets typical for this season. Upon reaching the cabin, I parked as close as possible. Following the owner's instructions, I found the key concealed under the mat. The cozy cabin welcomed me with preset heating, a thoughtful gesture considering the chilly November weather in Vermont. Equipped with cable and Wi-Fi, the Airbnb allowed me to set an early morning alarm for my hunting expedition at dawn, the optimal time for deer or, if luck favored, even moose sightings. The following morning, I promptly rose at the sound of my alarm, immersing myself in the unfamiliar woods within half an hour. Positioned behind a cluster of fallen trees, I was settling into my waiting game when a man's voice startled me. Turning around, I faced an individual with graying hair that contradicted his relatively youthful appearance. In a stern tone, he questioned my presence, revealing that hunting was restricted in the area. Unaware of this limitation, I explained my ignorance. The man claimed to have observed my arrival, emphasizing that out-of-towners often visited the cabin for dubious reasons. Apologizing, I gathered my belongings and retreated as instructed. Returning to the cabin, I discovered the door unlocked, an unsettling realization as I distinctly remembered securing it before. Although I couldn't pinpoint any missing items, a feeling of unease lingered. I decided to venture to a different park allowing hunting, experiencing a disappointing first half of the day. After regrouping at the cabin, I found solace in a Chinese takeout meal before succumbing to a nap. Later, As dusk settled, I resumed my hunting expedition, walking slowly through the park without much success. Returning to the cabin after dark, I prepared dinner, indulging in pasta and meatballs while watching an old black and white movie. Reflecting on the unlocked door and potential disturbances, I began to doubt my initial dismissal of the unsettling occurrences. After brushing my teeth, I retired to the bedroom, planning to fall asleep to another movie. In the midst of a half-awake dream state, a distinct sound of a door clicking open jolted me into full consciousness. Observing the cracked closet door, I grew apprehensive, realizing that the previous unsettling events might be more than my imagination. Arming myself with the CZ from my hunting pack, I confronted the situation, pointing the gun at the closet. Demanding the intruder to reveal themselves, I was stunned when the older man from earlier emerged, his disgruntled expression transforming into a creepy grin. Maintaining composure, I warned him not to move and I called the police. The sheriff's deputies arrived, securing the intruder in an arrest for breaking and entering, potentially robbery. Despite the man's claims of the door being unlocked, my doubts persisted. The Airbnb host sided with me, confirming that there were no hidden keys, emphasizing my responsibility for leaving the door unlocked. In the aftermath, the man ranted about people disrespecting the parks, though his motives remained unclear. Grateful for my hunting trip essentials, including firearms, I had successfully neutralized the threat and navigated a bizarre and unsettling experience.